We solve problems for the Army. That's what we do and help units make sure they have what they need to fight and win.
That's Brigadier General Michael B. Lalor, Commanding General, U.S. Army Tank-automotive and Armaments Command, a major subordinate command of Army Materiel Command. And this is In General Terms, a new podcast by TACOM, where we shed light on both the high-level mission and inner workings of the global TACOM team. I'm Rob LaFrance, your host for this very special inaugural episode. The plan is for each episode to be a conversation between General Lalor and a different member of his diverse and dynamic team. But for today, the General's agreed to be in the hot seat and let me interview him. Welcome, General Lalor.
Thank you, Rob.
General, you've been in your current position for almost a year now. Could you take a few minutes to share with us a little bit about yourself, where you're originally from, and what drew you to join the Army?
So, Michael Lalor, originally from Goshen, New York, which is in Hudson Valley, about 50 miles north of New York City. Been in the Army now for 29 years. I joined the Army when I went through ROTC, University of Scranton. My original goal was to be the center fielder for the New York Yankees, which was my plan going into school. But somewhere along the line, I realized that was probably going to top out before I got to the Bronx. My dad's a retired New York City policeman, and he was a master sergeant in the Army. So all my life, I've been surrounded by service. Started ROTC there in University of Scranton as a freshman, really just to see if I would even like it. No aspirations behind it. I kind of enjoyed some of the training. One thing led to another. Next thing I know, I was a contracted cadet. From there, getting commissioned. And then September 11th happened about 6 years into my career. And after that, I think I blinked. And today I drove to work, stopped at Dunkin' Donuts this morning. It goes real fast.
Yeah, I've heard that. Next thing you know, they've made it a career.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. My grandfather served too. On my mom's side, he enlisted during World War II to get his citizenship. He was an Italian immigrant, served in Europe for 3.5 years during World War II. I just always figured I would serve at some point in that line, and then one thing led to another, and never did I think for a minute that I'd be doing this for 29 years, much less where we're at and what we're talking about here. So it's been a blessing every step of the way.
Well, thank you to you and your family for your service. TACOM is a massive organization that employs around 15,000 people. How would you describe it?
What does TACOM do? So we deliver material readiness for the Army. That's what we do. We manage equipment, its supply, its maintenance from its inception into the Army throughout its entire life cycle, all the way eventually to maybe when the Army no longer deems that particular piece as useful or disposes of it. We produce. We make things, starting with tanks, ground combat systems. And so we really are the Army's hub and home of ground system equipment management. We deliver that material readiness every day, and we solve problems for the Army. That's what we do and help units make sure they have what they need to fight and win.
So what does a day in the life of General Lalor look like? We know you travel quite a bit. What's your primary goal while you're in this assignment?
Primary goal here is to make sure that we have the Army postured and the units around the world postured to fight and win. That's really my goal every day, to make sure that they're equipped, they're resourced, and that we're helping units be as ready as they can be for when the country calls on them. That's my goal every day. I think goals for the organization, I think the goal for me is to make sure that people want to serve here, that this becomes a destination of choice for people to serve here, and that people, while they're in the job working at TACOM, no matter where you are, you're in an environment where you can be your best self every day and you can progress or attain your own goals. Those are the goals externally for the Army. That's internally for the organization. And then, for all our depots and arsenals out there, of the 6 that we have around the country, to be their best selves as they can be, but at the same time, as part of our larger mission, to produce, to execute, and making sure that we have what we need, or the Army, I should say, has what it needs at unit level. And it gets to the point of production down to where the units need it and can employ it. As far as a day in the life for me, they're all a little different. I would say sometimes they're a little bit of a snowflake situation. Sometimes they all change depending on where we're going. I enjoy the traveling. I would say most of my days probably start much like today, bleary-eyed, tired, but energetic. Physical fitness is part of my routine every day. I did that this morning, and then we're off and running. We try and build a calendar there that every day is focused on our priorities, which are across the command, our people, our workforce, our production, our workload. Are we innovating? And then important to us, telling our story about what this organization does and what the people do in it. So that's pretty much how the calendar aligns, and then trying to hit, whatever our higher headquarters of the Army's asking us to do. But most of the time traveling, why I travel with great frequency, is as big as the organization is, I can't see leading it without going to see the people in it. I think that's the only way for me to touch, understand, feel, get the idea of what people are either, where they're succeeding, where they need some help, where I can help, where the organization can help. And we got so many great people out there. I think they appreciate that effort to go out and see them at different locations around the Army. Because we got people, depots and arsenals, but we got so many people at different locations. We were up recently in Natick, Massachusetts. We were out in the Defense Supply Center in Philadelphia. This is all in the month of May. We have so many logistics assistance representatives around the world who are coaching people on supply management or maintenance with every unit you can think of worldwide. So just trying to get out there and see them, whether you're serving in Europe or serving in the Pacific or Central Command, that we see it and understand it, and what you're up against, and that you're getting what you need. So a lot to that question. Hopefully that hits some of it. And by the end of the day, I'm usually well into the night still working. And then when I'm not, my time is for my family and trying to make baseball games and track meets, throwing tennis balls with dogs and seeing my wife. That's about a day in the life right there. By the end of it, if I have 5 seconds, seeing what's on TV.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your travels and just your schedule in general. I mean, just setting up this interview, I know that you are a busy man. What are some of the ways that you utilize your time to connect with your teams and help them understand their mission and how they connect to the priorities of the organization?
We have quite a few different forums where we get to talk at different levels to the team. We have our own rhythmic meeting schedule where we either have staff updates to me. We have a commander's weekly update where I'm on the net with all our commanders up on a Teams call, and our key leaders, our deputy commanding general, Mr. Butler, command sergeant major, our ILSC director, and then all the commanders talking through issues, our chief of staff and our command chief warrant officer. So we do that once a week. And then when we're getting out there visiting units, I'm first of all meet normally with first going to depots and arsenals, I'll go out and meet the command team. From there, I kind of put it in their hands to, take me where they want to take me, to show me what, how we're hitting our priorities, or where we're having successes or where we're having challenges, getting out on the floors of the depots and arsenals. But normally there's a staff engagement in there locally. If we traveled, we went to Rock Island Arsenal last week as an example. Met with Colonel Guida, his deputy Greg, his chief of staff Brian. Sat down with them. Then we talked with his directors, his division chiefs. We talked some advanced manufacturing with his leader there, Ed, and their guy in the ground, Randall, in the inside the arsenal. And then we walked the production lines, and see what we got going on. And then normally it transpires at different points as I'm walking around. I can talk to the workforce and kind of engage there more naturally, which is kind of the way I like to do it, and get a feel for, what's going on, good, bad, and somewhere in between, and what we got going on. And most of the time it's a real positive event just to hear what they have going on. On a quarterly basis, we do TACOM wide, like you said, out to 15,000 people, a town hall put together by our G3, our operations team, but mostly led by me and then a few selected staff members based on topic. We talk through what's going on across the organization. So we started doing those last fall remotely. So instead of doing it from the headquarters here in Warren and Detroit and projecting outward, we've been going to our depots and arsenals and broadcasting from there, doing town halls from those locations. And, it's about 2 hours where we talk through a bunch of different issues, what we have going on, where we're hitting our priorities. We highlight good news stories. We recognize our people, we recognize accomplishments out there. And then I think I took questions for about 50 minutes, which is great because plenty of people have an opportunity to engage. And I thought this last one we did, I think we got more questions than I might have, ever got right from there. That whole 50 minutes, it was like a good cyclic rate of fire, people asking questions the whole time, which I think is good. One, they got some things on their mind, and two, they know they're comfortable asking and know they're going to get a good, thoughtful, and honest answer from me or whoever I bring into the conversation.
Let's talk about your TACOM teammates. You interact with soldiers, government employees, contractors. What are some of the pros and cons to having such a dynamic workforce?
I would say it's mainly all pros, to be honest with you. The one thing that's amazing about this command, I mean, among many, I'm amazed by it every day in terms of what we do. I mean, I honestly am floored by it, but is the length of service we have and people who have been committed to serving the government, serving the Army, or whatever capacity over the length. I mean, I handed out a couple 50-year, length of service awards in the last couple ceremonies we've done, which is unbelievable. The pros of it, I think, is you get this wide range of experience from people who've been serving in the government 50 plus years, even before I was born, to people who just walked in the door last week for the first time serving in the government or serving the Army or serving the nation. So you got this wide array of backgrounds and people who have come from a variety of different areas, walks of life, and for some reason they elected to do something larger than themselves here, compelled to serve. So that's the first thing that I think is awesome every day about it. Two, there's nothing better than serving on a team. And I think that's why I probably, getting back to that very first question you asked, kind of how I got into this was, if I wasn't playing on a team, I'd rather serve on a team. And then when you serve on the team, you want to serve on a team that values you and you want to make a difference for. Well, this has been the team for me for the last 29 plus years. The other pros of it is around here in terms of serving with a wide array of people is you get a diversity of thought. You got people who have different ideas. You got people who see things differently. That's one thing I think I have gained an appreciation for quite a bit over the last several jobs. And I think I have a pretty good appreciation of it every day, is that not everybody sees the problem or sees the situation the same way. And I like to hear what people have to think about it. And I like having a good back and forth. Maybe it's the New Yorker in me, a little discussion back and forth. And then I don't mind a little traffic, as I like to say. And then we figure out what's best for the organization, because that's really what it's about. It's not about one person. And then we just go forward from there. I don't see any cons to any of that, in terms of backgrounds and wide array. The only thing I would say is I wish I can get to everybody. I think most people know if I have 2 seconds and you send me a note, I'm going to respond to you and give you a thoughtful answer. And if I'm hip deep in my day, as we've talked before, I'll get to you within a short amount of time and give you that the courtesy of that response. But I can't think nothing but good things about the expanse, plus the quality, plus the background, plus the dedication of our workforce every day. I think it's awesome. And I also tell people all the time, which we've been very focused on the last, almost a year that I've been here, is how do we connect with more people, which is, to what you and I are doing here right now. How do we get to a broader audience, and how do we bring more people into this great organization, which is doing something every day for our nation? And so I think we've had some good inroads on that with some different hiring events and hiring fairs. We did our first one on Detroit Arsenal that anybody can remember. In some of our depots and arsenals, I asked them to all start doing some more localized hiring fairs and actions and connecting in with technical schools and local universities. And they've all embraced that and are doing great with it. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity every day to engage. I don't pass up the opportunity anytime I get a chance to engage with the broader organization, the team, with the diversity of thought. Just one other thought is that I don't mind a little friction. I don't mind a little disagreement. I think that the other perspectives are good. I welcome them. There's no one way to tackle something in most cases. But at some point we figure out what's best, like I said, and we move it forward. So
I feel like we need that way of thinking more these days.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think broader, you're right, no doubt. And I'm definitely try to live that here every day.
So the world, as we know, is evolving at a rapid pace, especially with technology. You've got AI, cloud computing, big data. So how does TACOM keep up when it comes to attracting talent or upskilling the talent you already have in order to adapt to this new age of thinking and doing business?
I think, first of all, we embrace them. You got to adapt over time. You got to be open to integrating some of that new technology, that new talent, that new way of thinking into your current practices. That's not easy to do. And sometimes, especially like I said, you're working in a place that has had a lot of success. It's got its own processes, its own biorhythms every day. And if you're making changes within, you're integrating big data, you're integrating AI, you're integrating whatever the case may be. Sometimes you're breaking some porcelain. You're hitting some things that are sensitive, and sometimes sometimes people feel it. But I think the biggest thing is people, if you explain to them what we're trying to do, they're tracking and they understand that you got to evolve and keep it moving. So that's the one thing I think is great. I think the other thing too is we have some really good progressive thinkers inside our organization here, leaders at every echelon who are driving us forward. So if I tell them, hey, our purpose is to make sure we're delivering that material readiness to the Army, or we're producing at scale to meet the demands of the Army and our partners and allies, they understand they got to leverage all the tools to do that. If we're going to make good decisions or the best decisions with a finite amount of resources every day, using the most modern suite of analytics you can to make best informed decisions, we do that. We have a great in-house analytics team inside our material systems organization that has been working at this for about a little over 18 months now, maybe out to 24 months now. And they have done tremendous work in helping us see readiness across different vehicle systems and fleets and making our best decisions across, where we can. So that's exciting. I asked us to look at how we can best use AI to help us organize some of that big data and help us filter through some of that data to help our decision-making process. And we're starting to scratch the surface there with that inside of our external support operations inside the Integrated Logistics Support Center, or the ILSC, looking at where we best do that, where we best employ that. But likely it starts in our supply chain, using that AI to help us sort data and then also to forecast, and some modeling there that can maybe help us make some predictive analysis and decisions ahead of time, also coupled with what I was talking about, our in-house analytics. So that's pretty interesting stuff. We've made a lot of strides in the field of advanced manufacturing in the last several months, where not only reliant on our supply chain to meet unit repair part needs or equipment needs, if a vendor or a supply chain gap exists temporarily where we can't get that piece of equipment for a unit, could we manufacture it internal to TACOM, to Tank-automotive Armaments Command? And we've been doing that at Rock Island Arsenal and other locations, and really starting to produce at a much greater rate and scale. And then if we have something that can help a unit, we get it out to the unit. So that's pretty exciting. And I think a lot of people are excited about that because it gets at our core mission of production. And if we can produce internally to us and get it out to units in the field, wherever they may be, that's pretty exciting. Nice tension in the system, I would say, of embracing some of the newer technology, the data and analytics, and kind of trying to marry them where they best fit with our processes. And you got that rub sometimes, but I think there's a lot of good in what we're doing. The other thing I think with what we do with our forecast and our modeling, some of the way we see ourselves and share that data, I think we're helping our higher headquarters. We're helping Army Material Command. We're helping the Army see itself with ground system fleets and where we got to apply some thought, some resources, and some effort. And I think that's all healthy. So pretty exciting time.
So what kind of challenges do you have when it comes to modernizing TACOM from an internal perspective? What are some of the things holding you back from being able to execute your missions?
Nothing impinges us from our core mission day to day. But in terms of modernizing, well, one, we got a lot of great investment from the Army, from Army Material Command, from the Congress in terms of providing us over $18 billion to AMC to modernize the industrial base over the next 15 years. That's a huge investment, of which TACOM has likely about $4+ billion of that, almost $5 billion, depending on how it'll work out in the end. That's a huge investment in us. Now the challenge is, okay, you got the commitment. Now you got to take what's on the piece of paper of what we want to accomplish. Now you got to turn it into brick mortar and construct something out of that, whether that's improving our arsenals and depots. So some of our arsenals and depots, were built back in World War II era to meet demand when the country had to gear up for production in World War II. Some of those facilities have been modernized over time. Some of them have not. Trying to then take that money, translate it into some appropriate best buying power for our construction needs, and then turn that into a modern facility where people can operate. That's a good challenge for us all the time, where we have to work through so many different partners and other stakeholders to make that all go. We got to work through some bureaucracy sometimes about where we're applying those funds and making sure they're on time and on target to either facilitate construction. Some other things about some modernization beyond facilities is just modernizing our processes and thinking about where we can extend our processes over time. So, some examples are, we're very much focused on production and what we'd say depot level maintenance inside the Army. So thinking about when you say depot level maintenance, people kind of generally understand that you're either tearing down a system or rebuilding components or going to retooling a system so that you can extend its life out for several more years. But that doesn't always happen every day in one of the 6 depots and arsenals we have. We're doing depot level repair or some shape of it, primarily in those depots and arsenals, but we take some of those skills we're using we project those with teams where we got to go out to units and maybe help someone in a more remote location, in a forward location. Now, how can we extend some of that capability of our maybe below depot level maintenance, but more at our, we call it more the sustainment level maintenance, higher than what a user might do. How do we extend some of that capability forward so we don't always have to bring something back to those 6 depots and arsenals or into the continental United States to repair it? So we're thinking through how to execute some forward repair at different locations worldwide. That is a good challenge for us in terms of, one, thought, making sure that everybody's kind of aligned to what we're trying to do there and understands where we're trying to apply effort, trying to apply some dollars there, and then move at a pace with some partners out there to extend some of those capabilities. And that goes with everything from ground system repair to Army watercraft, of which people don't even realize the Army has watercraft at the quantity we do, and we sure do. And TACOM's at the forefront of repairing those as well. I think that some of those challenges modernizing, like I said, facilities, our processes, how can we make sure our processes, even internal to manufacturing, are reliable and repetitive, and that we can do them, as accurately or as effectively as possible with velocity and get the most out of our production. Those are some challenges. Forward projecting it is a challenge. And then one other big thing about modernizing too is you got to get your workforce up to speed with the skills that you're asking them to do. You're asking them to do a lot of maybe some skills that they weren't trained on necessarily, or employing some data or some equipment that maybe they weren't necessarily trained when they came into doing this 10, 15 years ago, whatever the case may be. How are you going to do that? We're much focused on using an array of suite of different things inside our TACOM talent and development program to make sure we're getting skills and some training, and whether that's leadership or hard technical skills down to our subordinate units, to our depots and arsenals, and making sure that workforce is equipped to succeed and be its best. And so that's a challenge for us too, to do that at scale and at pace. And I think we've made some nice inroads there, but we got a long way to go.
All right, let's talk about one of my favorite subjects, sports. We're going to take you outside of the organization. You're a huge football fan. Is it both college and pro, or they're just one or the other? And as far as that goes, what are your favorite teams?
Football, yeah, definitely a huge fan. I like both games. I'm definitely more of a pro fan over my time, because growing up in New York, where I grew up, you're only going to have 2 college teams. You're either rooting for Army or you're rooting for Syracuse. I didn't grow up like in the SEC or Big Ten area where you have that on every Saturday. So I'm more oriented toward the pro game. New York Giants are my favorite football team. And then on the college side, I do still root for Army because they're the closest team where I was growing up in the Hudson Valley. It had nothing to do with at the time being in the Army. They're just the local team. And then, but also I do root for, I do have some like for Syracuse, but I also root for Louisiana State. I root for LSU because I did some grad school at LSU. Oh, nice. So that's my connection to the big conferences. But I do love the game. I probably watch during the season. I'm watching what I can on Saturday, but I don't miss much on the pro side. And of course, now the pro side, they're playing Thursday, Sunday, Monday. It's like a full, it's like all week long now. So, but Giants are my first love, and then being where I'm from, just out of sheer curiosity, I follow the Jets too, just to see what they're up to. And they always have enough drama there to keep you interested.
They sure do. I think I saw a video of you. Did you get to announce a draft pick at the last draft in Detroit?
We did. It was a awesome experience, and I got to thank the NFL for that, and then also our team here who put that together. We went down to the draft in Detroit Detroit did such an awesome job with hosting the NFL draft. It was unbelievable. And the crowds were record setting. That was an experience unto itself with just being at the draft. Then we had the chance to, Command Sergeant Major St. Helen and I had a chance to enlist 30 people or swear them in with the oath of office on the stage, which was amazing. And so you did, across the services. So all services from the Army to the Space Force were all represented in those 30 people. This is the first time I've been nervous administering the oath of office in a long time, given the crowd size.
Yeah.
When I was like sitting out there looking, I'm like, man, I hope I got these words right here. There's only about 200,000 people here. And that's just watching locally. But we did that. Got to meet the guy from the Red Zone, Scott Hansen up there from DirecTV. He was on the stage with me and Sergeant Major. We did. That was awesome. And then, our PAO team hooked it up, Don Edwards and team, and they asked, hey, would I do a draft pick? I was like, 100%. I mean, for sure. And of course, they asked what team, and I said, of course, back to where we started, the Giants, because that's been my team since I probably can remember, 7 years old. So yeah, as we did the draft pick, I got to do it with my kids. We got to announce a 5th-round pick, a running back, which they need anyway, which worked out pretty well. So our new favorite player in the house is Tyrone Tracy from Purdue, and we hope he does well for the Giants. And then my wife got to do a pick as well. We had no idea that would happen, but she just kind of got pulled out of the stands. She's sitting there wearing her Washington Commanders gear because that's who her team has been all her life. I told her they felt sorry for her because there was only like 3 Commanders fans there. Oh. But all kidding aside, it was good to see them get a little Commanders get a little good news there too. And so she got to draft, or announce, I should say, their 5th-round pick, who was a linebacker at a Temple, Jordan McGee. So it was pretty cool. It was beyond any day I could have ever dreamed that we would have done something like that. It was crazy, amazing.
So you've compared TACOM to the unsung offensive line of a football team. What makes you draw that comparison?
I like that comparison, and I've used it in some of my other units too. But when you're a logistician, or you're working in you're working kind of behind the scenes many times as a logistician, or you're in a depot, an arsenal, a factory, you're doing some work that is foundational to any team. But, you're not always going to be highlighted or get the limelight of that, much like an NFL offensive lineman or an offensive lineman on any football team. When you think about NFL linemen, I always think about John Madden because, before he was a video game, he was a coach and he was an announcer as a lineman himself. Highlighted that important work that the offensive lineman did. I think the things we learned from his work doing that, highlighting him, is one, how intelligent those offensive linemen are, because some of them are some of the most intelligent players on the field just because of their understanding of the schemes. And the other thing is, the most time that they get on film or video or get talked about is either mostly when they fail, or their quarterback their running back gets pancaked, or their quarterback gets hit on the blind side. And we've seen, books written by Michael Lewis or the movie On the Blind Side, which really highlighted the importance of the left tackle, because most quarterbacks are right-handed. Why I think that applies to us is because most of the time we won't get the limelight or attention unless we do something that we don't execute. That's when logisticians, and especially inside TACOM or whatever the logistician situation is, you get attention when something doesn't work. I would say we take care of our commanders and kind of ensure that their blind side is protected. So that's where I think we do fit the mold of an offensive lineman, and most of the time we're on that side protecting someone's blind side because we're doing work that most people don't see. We free up the offense to move the ball down the field.
We talked about you being in this role for almost a year, which technically means you have just over a year left to round out your assignment. And as we all know, time goes really fast. What are some of the initiatives you're most excited about when you think about the long-term impact you'll have for TACOM? On the flip side of that, what are some of the things that keep you up at night?
I think some of the initiatives that we got working that I'm looking forward to see where they go and progress over time is one, our ability to produce and affect down at the point of need. So, the advanced manufacturing work that we're doing now, I think is a game changer long term, and it's going to be a catalyst for good positive change and development of that. across the Army in terms of expanding that capability. So that's exciting. That's going to come from either, us producing it, first of all, at, what we do at the strategic end of Rock Island, but then making sure that we can help influence what the capability that units have long-term at their particular location to produce either through their metal shops or additive manufacturing. That's exciting. I think to start to see our depots and arsenals start to operationalize and put into play those plans we had for modernization, and now incorporate your facilities with your processes to optimize your ability to produce. That's exciting. Seeing our workforce adapt to that and train and skill and develop into what they can be, that's something I definitely am excited to see long term here. So those are just a few things that I think over the next year and beyond that I'm excited for us to go for and see. And then also we're taking a look at how we can rethink depot maintenance. How can we use our assets smartly to repair and overhaul and extend the life on systems, but then couple that with some of the talent and skills of our depot maintainers and help units, give them an injection of new equipment, but also give them some training where our maintainers are linked up with unit level maintainers, and that fusion there and that interaction can produce a better level and culture of maintenance across the Army, or an improved culture of maintenance across the Army. That's what I would say, an improved quality of maintenance across the Army. I'm excited about some of those things we're doing. I think some of those will be long lasting, and they'll have a positive effect for years to come.
Well, we're winding down, and it was suggested that we do a little rapid fire would you rather. So you've got 3 seconds. I'm going to throw a couple things at you, and then you got 3 seconds to answer, okay?
All right.
All right, here we go. Talk or text?
It depends on the topic. I'd say text if it's like sports and different things back and forth. I like that rapid fire. Occasional talk's good too, like we're doing here.
Okay. Beach or mountains?
Mountains. I do like lakes and mountains.
Yankees or Mets?
Yankees. There's no that's it. I was up late watching them and they lost last night, but they'll bounce back tonight.
iPhone or Android?
I have both, but Android personally, so Android.
Early riser or night owl?
Both, but I like the ability to do both, but I like early rising working out. I like being able to stay up and watch some sports, night owl.
Book smart or street smart?
I'd say street smart. I'd say the kind of understand your environment. I tend to learn kind of visually. Book's important. Street is where I'm at.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs. I got 2 who would not be happy if I answered otherwise. So,
what are their names?
Yogi and Whitey.
Nice. And fly or invisible? I guess that would be a superpower. Like, if you had a superpower, would you want to be able to fly or be able to become invisible?
Fly. I think that, yeah, I like the ability to kind of project there. That'd be awesome.
And finally, can you describe yourself in one word?
Driven. I would say definitely driven has probably been me my whole life. I definitely always have had, I think my mom or dad would probably say, yep, he's probably been, knows where he's going every day.
So General Lalor, you're going to be the host of this show for our next episodes. What topics can teammates expect to hear about coming up?
We got some exciting upcoming episodes and topics we can hit. I think we can talk about an array of different things. I would say what TACOM's doing in terms of its production, how we're continuing to modernize some of that. I think some topics in terms of our workforce, our training, how we can develop leaders. I think that's good. I think the future of Army maintenance and where that's going, I think that'd be a good topic. I think there's probably an array of other ones where we could get into, how can we continue to project our capabilities to really help deliver some of those material readiness. I think those are some great topics that we can get into. And I think also talking about the future of Detroit Arsenal, kind of where it could go and where us and our stakeholders can turn this into a modern innovation hub, kind of in line with the arsenal democracy that we're known for. So those are some good topics, I think, coming up.
And do you know who some of the possible guest speakers joining you in future episodes will be?
I think, first of all, within our team, we got some great leaders that I think people would like to hear from. Everybody from Command Sergeant Major to some of our other commanders to our deputy. I think those would be some interesting to hear from some of those. But also, I think we can bring in some good leaders from across the Army. Outside of our organization can give some other perspectives, how they see some things developing and where we fit into that. and then maybe even some of our local stakeholder partners, and then maybe who knows where it may go beyond that. But I think those are some good ones. I think whether some of our leaders, some of our commanders and leaders and inside AMC, I bet we could get for we could see that developing. But we'll work those over time. But I'm pretty excited where we can go and who we can get on here to talk to.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for joining me, General. This was a great conversation. I learned so much.
No, thanks, Rob. Really glad to meet you and appreciate the conversation and look forward to what we'll do together down the line.
Thank you to General Lalor for kicking off Episode 1, and thank you to our listeners and viewers for joining the conversation. The goal of this show is to reach the TACOM workforce and external audiences to share information that's timely, interesting, and educational. As we just learned, TACOM has a critical mission, keeping the U.S. Army combat ready on multiple fronts. Keeping the TACOM team informed and engaged is key to our success, and helping share our story externally will help others understand the magnitude of the role this organization plays. We want to hear from you. If you have a topic or questions you want to hear more about, we want to bring you along on this journey with us. Information will be shared on future episodes at a later date, so stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so that you can be notified whenever a new episode's released.